So hi ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 30th of December 2018, just before New Year. So I guess I should start with Happy New Year. Really, Happy New Year. If you're experiencing peace times at the moment and just got through Christmas and experienced a lovely time, and I was very lucky. I managed to get involved in the Christmas food. They organised down the town hall here in Glastonbury. I managed to get a bit involved in that because I struggle a bit with Christmas. I do see the importance though of, these gifts and giving things out and thinking of other people and everything out of that. I do think of that and I see the beauty in that. But I still struggle with the whole commercial aspect of it. It kind of overwhelms me, as I'm sure it does you. But coming back to a bit of love and a bit of celebration, we're still here now. And we still have options now. And we still have a capacity to make fantastic decisions now. So before I want to come to the I guess the part of what this show is going to be about, the predicament we're in right now, and explore that. I'm not going to go too specifically into any specific news stories. Overall, I will start with where will I start? I think I'm going to start, because WSO, Steve Olson just put a video out recently, a couple of days ago, seeing an object which he referred to as the Dobbs object, and I want to just cover that very, very briefly for Steve as well, and just to open up this for the greater debate. You'll notice if that's following the sun down at sunset and it's to the right, Steve, I would say that's not the Dobbs object. I know that sounds terrible way to start there. It's multiple kind of like fiery tails up in the sky. But we have seen that there are two twin tail objects up in the sky. And if I take that most recent model that I've put together, you can possibly see that, as from my understanding, there's no way that can be on the right hand side of the sun at the moment, but it should be following it down if it was that second object, which would account for that orbit, and that effectively is heading straight down to where Venus is right now, literally. So it's quite interesting that Venus has its own kind of regulating force, just like we do. It seems that this specific object that is affecting us now is also the same object that affects Mars, but it seems Venus has a different body that comes very close to it, and that would tally far more with the kind of orbit of Venus. I mean, you can just see it there, and we're expecting to see it. Do you remember when we had the meteor shower over Russia, and the day before, the day after we saw the pair of them then, and obviously Becky Lewis has caught the pair of them twice. I'm of a mind. She caught it around the 25th, 26th of June, I think. The one where it's coming in from the night sky, one of the few shots we get where it's coming into the night sky. I think that was June 2017. And the only other time we'd seen it coming into the night sky like that, as I can really remember, was Matt Rogers shot on the 15th of August. Was it 2016 or was it 2017? It would have been 2016 because the 2017 shot was obviously the big. Didn't come in from the night sky, but the 2017 shot where it came in on the 17th of August. It was, these are all showing up. Like I said, I've often gone through in the same sort of positions, but you can see by that, Steve. It's to the right hand side of the sun, which means it's another object closer to the planet X system, but that thing won't be on the right hand side of the sun until we hope it will never get to the right hand side of the sun. We hope it will never get to the right hand side of the sun. From in this specific flyby anyway. So I'm so sorry, it's a little bit complicated because I blab between. Hopefully I'll put overlays over the top of this and make it a little bit simpler. But then I just saw you posted a video today, Steve, and you matched it up with the same time as Blue Kool-Aid put a video up about electrical disturbances, and it ties in very nicely with where this show is going, because it's massively affecting electrical circuits, massively affecting the grid, obviously at this proximity. And then you showed at the same time, Steve, a correlating image, I believe, in the same area of what looks exactly like what I'm expecting to see. Although I do not understand quite why it would be seen so nearly. I mean, I wasn't too sure of the time of those shots, the time of that shot where it's in what looks like blue or something like that. Obviously it was very, very recently, somewhere over America, possibly New York, not too sure. I'll put it down, but I'll write it down. But was it late at night? Was it? Where would I expect it to be? It would have been. We're always going to be seeing it because it's coming in from, I suppose, sunrise or sunset. But at sunset, like I say, it's to the left, tracking down towards the sun. I just don't know what that is. I just don't know what that is, or how that works. It's what I'm expecting to see, but not in the night sky, not yet. What is that? Is that another part of the Planet X system? We have to understand that the blue Fukushima and the red dwarf planet that it chases have all long since gone through our ecliptic plane, which obviously isn't that ecliptic, but they were like 2004, no doubt, was the first big point when when the big Planet X system passed, and okay, I mean, you see how I sort of like I'm of a mind that the dwarf planet itself, triggered the the 8.8 earthquake in Chile. As I've said in many of my previous videos, the 8.8 earthquake in Chile, around about the 27th of February 2010, and then obviously the Fukushima earthquake 1 year and basically 13 days later on the 11th of March 2011. So that's a 13-day difference in astronomical positioning. So we can kind of see the bigger parts of this system came through long before. We are now seeing the very, very last aspect of the crossing. And like I say, from my timeline perspective, there isn't another point. Maybe I can be pushed to upgrade the model at some other point, but guys, we've been doing this for a long time. This is my 10th flyby. And we've seen all the others, and it's moving as regular as clockwork. there is absolutely no doubt that this thing is coming in. You know, last year it was a month behind where it is now. The year before it was 2 months behind where it is now. And you know, that shot where we had it on the 21st of January 2017, epic shot, the absolute epic shot, the day of Trump's inauguration. And obviously there's this whole thing developing there, isn't there, about how Trump's inauguration and how he's going to be kind of like 70 years old and blah, 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 and all the rest of it on... There's a whole series of sevens apparently on the 20th or 21st, which is when the time of the next full moon. So we're honing into the predicament. We're honing in here to the predicament, because let's just stay with that full moon for a shake. The next full moon is around about the 20th, 21st of January. Now, have you noticed the last two tsunamis? Both fell on full moons. And my friend Pete, who's just gone off to India and what have you, I said to him before he went, I said, Pete, you know, when we come to the next full moon, you know, there's going to be floods and everything, because where there's already anomalies with the tides, once you get a full moon added to that, you get to really see the type of anomalies that are actually going on that you can't really see, because as soon as you get a full moon, you really amplify that. You know, the anomalies get amplified by that process. Now, you think that same process happened in, I can't remember the date of it was quite late in September, just gone, the big tsunami that came during the time of the full moon. And you can pretty much see that as this thing tracks in now, if it's where I think it is, the next full moon, if we're not already seeing massive anomalous oceanic movements, you know, which I expect to see anyway, they are going to be massively amplified on that day. Now, like I say, going back to this whole Gregorian kind of like Julian calendar, to kind of use the kind of like the big flood that happened in 1606 or 1607, depending on whether you kind of look at it at the Julian calendar or the Gregorian calendar, means that that same date would tally with the 30th of January next year, 2019. That would be the point, using that previous occurrence, that would be the point of greatest gravitational effect, except that we could be far, far closer to it this time round, because we don't know how close we were to it in 1607 or 1606, depending on which way you want to look at it. We don't know how close we were. We know that if that date runs consistent now, and which, you know, by the Gregorian Gregorian calendar, it's the 30th of January, which means that there's going to be a lot of there's a lot of ancient institutions that have used this for time immemorial and understand it, and understand what it is and how it works and the whole procedure here, and have built massively complex stories that are eons old, and each has no doubt its own intention. To see it as good or bad, they're just different ways, and people tend to stick with what they know, I guess, and You know, they do say if you want to understand what's happening, you need to look at the past and look at history. And this is the predicament, folks. This is the predicament. Where I am right now. And also where you are right now. Even if you think you're far. Me, I'm not far. At all. From a nuclear power station. Now this is the predicament. I've given you 10 flybys. I've never let you down. You know, NASA and all the rest of the organisations are telling you that Comet Verton has just flown by. And you should have seen it in the night sky, but is everyone talking about seeing a comet streak across the night sky at the moment? We know there's a big transit coming up. We absolutely know it. We can see many, many different organisations. But guys, if we do not deal with this nuclear issue of all these power stations, now, it's a painful, painful thing to look at what's happening, but this is the painful face of the predicament. Is that Trump, good or bad, however you see him, has capitalised on the fact that carbon dioxide doesn't mean build nuclear power stations everywhere. It means earthquakes and volcanoes are erupting. And this is what's destroyed the whole global warming carbon story, is because the carbon story was a lie. And it's painful to see, to think that we could do everything that we've done. And I know I go on about this. So, this is, you know, I am like a crazy old train spotter just going round and round and round. But guys, unless we tackle this, what do we expect to happen now? We're hoping that something like the pyramids that just appeared supposedly over the Pentagon, filmed by 2 separate sources, have come in over every last nuclear power station and pick up all that nuclear waste for us because we can't deal with our own shit. Do we expect that we should be treated any differently than what happened with Fukushima? Do we expect to be treated any differently? You just saw how power stations, you know, blue Kool-Aid showing those nuclear power, but it could have been nuclear power going through those pylons. How do I know? You know what I mean? But we can see that this is not a time to be running nuclear power stations. We have to shut them down through this transit. We have to take responsibility. We have to take responsibility to what is happening here, because you will carry that. You will carry that. That is how you ghost a world. And this is how Trump has. You can imagine, you know, when we hear Trump, we think he's a climate change denier and everything else like that. We all get so angry. But can you see how that entire contingency, the entire right-wing contingency, is now seeing the left wing as this nuclear pushing cabal, driven by kind of like the likes of kind of like Hillary Clinton and Al Gore and that sort of stuff, when in reality this was botched science fed in way before that. What fed in way before that? This was botched science fed in the days of Thatcher, in the days of, you know, when we were talking about Agenda 21. This was high level academic bullshit being fed in to the equation, being fed into the environmentalists, and the environmentalists were the only ones who were going to pick it up, were going to run with it, because they wanted to save the world. They needed to take action. But so much of this situation has created this scene that has seemingly pulverized the left wing. But of course, all of you people, you know, it doesn't take away from any of your intentions whatsoever. We're just looking at a situation where one party is managing to demonize the other and doing unbelievably well because of the botched data that's been used by both sides. all the way through this. We've, since the whole, as far as I can see, since the whole kind of like real kind of carbon dioxide story goes. I mean, there's been at least, I was counting yesterday, I was going back about 10-15 years, but it looks to me as if it's way more than 1 billion vehicles have been manufactured. Way more than 1 billion vehicles have been manufactured. Way more. And most of those in the name of reducing our carbon footprint by going more for a more economical model and everything else like that. We've pumped so much of the money after 2008 into new cars, which we know will depreciate, as we all know. When we buy our houses and the money goes into the houses, the value goes up. So to pump all of this money into the new car industry to add to the whole crazy thing, because we as human beings are subprime. The whole, everything from top to bottom, from side to side, is upside down for us at the moment. We are in a predicament. We are in a predicament where we're waiting for God, waiting for Jesus to come down and switch off all those nuclear power stations, because we can't do that. Because we can't look at this, because our story isn't too important. We can't look at global warming, so now we've got to call it GSM, global cooling. We've got to do anything we can to get around this problem and not see the fundamental elephant in the room. The elephant that cuts off the head of our main sun god. Blocks out the light of the sun. And replaces it with this thing. This great, awesome power. Some of you want to call it Jesus. Call it what you will. It has a code of decency. That's all it's about. It does not tolerate any war. We and everything here are of its creation. And it is not at war. And it will not tolerate anything it creates being of war. That is not what it creates. You're being held for ransom. Really. Humanity is being held at gunpoint. And there's really one God saying, if I can't have you, no one can have you. It's a very, very difficult situation. And there's a lot of stuff. All I can say is that, especially those who are really, really, Trump, everything he's doing seems to be built around these same dates. This blood moon really is going to be a terrible blood moon. It's going to wreak absolute hell, and that could just, as far as I can see, the closest passages, like, it could be like 10 days after, but you just don't really know. It could be before. There's so many things now. We're in a little bit of an unknown sort of period, because we've only got our history, and we've got the flybys so far and everything else like that. But in terms of astronomical perfection, it's very, very difficult. And so I'd like also you to think about what happens, why the earthquake happened twice in Indonesia. And the reason I'm of a mind that's happening is because the moon is dropping down slightly. Where the moon would orbit around the earth, as I'm understanding it, following pretty much the same ecliptic plane as Earth's ecliptic plane around the sun. And it seems to me that it's dropping one way or another, probably being pulled down towards this approaching this approaching planet. And obviously we're going to get the biggest changes coming in now. It's coming in quick and fast now. And I really want to kind of drift over to a little bit more about my message in all of this, that was the motivation for me writing Laughing Gas, and the message that was given to me at that time, and where I was told, don't worry about your planet. I've already don't worry about your, I've already, just trying to remember the exact word, my best. Deployed. I've already deployed my best. Unprecedented peace will now be waged upon your earth. And so all those real light warriors out there, earning your stars and stripes. Some of you are thinking that Trump's going to be your saviour, and maybe he is. Careful about becoming radical in this time. Going to blame and all these different stories. All of this is a story that has been engineered to drive all this divide and all this hate, this division that has come through our societies, that started with Brexit, which has just ripped us apart into this, that has ripped the whole left wing apart because of all its efforts, and this massive migration to the right wing I'm seeing because of this travesty of smothering the world with nuclear power stations. Please understand, I so don't blame the left wing for that, and all the liberals, what they call these liberal kind of neo-fascists and everything else like that. It's like, this has been the science that's been fed into it. And you're just being guided into a place to hate and attack each other and go into any form of blame, where you're looking down your finger and blaming someone else, blaming a refugee, blaming an eco-warrior, blaming a Trump supporter, blaming a Brexiteer, a Remainer, a Ramona. You know what you've got to do. You've got to hold on to that sacred space within your heart and get taken away with the story, the big story which they've orchestrated. I remember How to Catch a Monkey. Apparently you kind of like you drill a hole in the wall while the monkey's watching. Apparently you hide nuts. You keep some nuts, a little stash of nuts. Get the monkey watching you, and he's curious about what you're doing with these nuts. And then you make a little hole in the wall. You drill a hole in a tree or something. This is kind of like it was an African thing I'd seen in a documentary when I was a kid years ago. And yeah, this tribesman, he drilled this hole in this tree and made it a bit bigger on the inside, on the holes, and then whilst the monkey was watching, shoved the nuts inside and then moved away, and then the monkey comes along and grabs the nut, and his fist is clenched and he can't get his fist out of the hole holding onto the nuts, and he can't let go of the nuts. so they can just put a noose over his neck. And he can't let go. And I don't know what they're going to give us. I can imagine that famine is going to be one way they can drive us into a new credit system and a new kind of agreements and a lot of new different things if they've got them lined up. If this is going to happen on both sides of the Atlantic, we're going to see a massive crash in Britain due to Brexit and a massive something looking like a dollar crash in America with a big, long, complicated story that's going to lead up to the blood moon. It's going to be a big bamboozling story, and I mean the movements of this thing are pretty easy to. I've worked them out, and we've steadily just watched it, haven't we? Over three, nearly 4 years of just constant kind of work. We're kind of working out aspects of this thing, and yeah, I haven't really got a lot to add to it really now. Right now, it just feels like it's a little bit tired now, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed by the whole thing, and I'm a little bit overwhelmed by the fact that we could actually have all these power stations running now. What could we do collectively right now? If we have no power, we can ask Theresa May, but it's all just ego and power and no reality check. And I really feel that we need to invite some high help in. I really feel as if we need to give some permissions to allow some higher assistance. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do that with you. Because we are in a predicament. And just to allow this to go and just walk off the edge of this cliff and repeat Fukushima, because we're too cool to look at this, and we can't look at this because we might damage the carbon story, or we can't look at this because our Facebook profile might be damaged by it. We can't question this nuclear agenda because it's climate change denial. Power stations built on fault lines that are shaking. The whole grid exposed to massive electromagnetic kind of like shockwaves that could shut everything down, shut the pumps down, shut everything down. Shut everything down. We have to take some responsibility. Excuse me if I'm so tired. It's like I say, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I knew I had to make a New Year's a video just to wish you well for New Year, and it's been burning inside of me, this issue, and I just know I don't know what else to do apart from say that, guys, there's a lot of stuff that you might regret not doing. Why didn't you scream it out? Why didn't you all scream it out? Why didn't you all scream it out when you so knew it was coming in? Why didn't you? Why didn't you scream it out? Imagine going back in time now and trying to get into a time machine to come back to this moment here. Just to get back, just to some crazy, just to hope that you could change the whole thing and maybe reverse everything that happened once on Mars and not do that whole thing that might take thousands of years just to reach you after your destruction. To say, you could go back, and then you just want to go back to that point That beautiful point where you had a planet and you had all the wonder, but there's no way back. And you're obsessed with going back there because you cannot look at what you've done, what you've let go of, all that you've lost. You cannot touch it. The pain of it is just too agonizing. So you're locked away from the future because you're locked in a pain of losing everything. Don't make that same mistake. Theresa May, don't carry that. You will carry that. Everything I do now is because I had a vision of me dying with terrible, 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 terrible regret. And maybe that's a real vision of me a long time ago, maybe on Mars, or maybe a destruction way before. Maybe I wasn't seeing a premonition. Maybe I was seeing something that happened a long time ago and experiencing, perhaps even correcting on some level a mistake I made a long time ago. That I might have the opportunity now to speak a truth and say you don't have to walk that path. It's wake up time, guys. Don't do this to your planet. Don't do this to your planet. Yes, you have your theatre shows, and yes, you play it in the way which you feel you want to touch your God. But does your God ask you to destroy this earth, to completely destroy it so all the flesh falls away from the spirit and everything is pure ghost? Nothing living flesh remains. Is that a dream of a future? Is that a new world? Is that your future? You can't switch those reactors off, guys. And you've all got to shout it out. That's a terrible regret to carry for a few thousand years. Jump in your time machine right now and set it for now. And press go. When you're ready,